This con
Alright, so in the yesterday's session, we talked about basic overview about SAP FICO. So what we need to know, how your FICO course content, works out in the real environment, and what you exactly have to know about SAP FICO course training. Today, let us talk about what is actually there in SAP FICO that we have to know in order to become a consultant. So yesterday we discussed there are two modules within SAP FICO. What are those two modules in FICO?
UNFI.
One is FI and the other one is CO. So combination of FI and CO, we call it as a FICO. Now in the market, you cannot say yourself as a FI consultant. You must say yourself as a FICO consultant. Okay, never tell that you are a FI consultant. You can tell that you are a CO consultant, but you should never say you are a FI consultant. Okay, so why you should never tell you are only FI consultant, you will understand shortly. Now, when it comes to FI, we mean financial accounting. Financial accounting, and on CO we mean it is controlling. Now, from the financial accounting point of view, what are the sub components involved within FI? Any idea, anyone?
Hello. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
It's FIGL, FIAP, FIAR, FIAA.
okay. But what is the first one from SAP FI? Before
It's
GL,
FI
AP, AR,
General Ledger Account.
before GL, there will be something. You cannot directly configure general ledger.
Before
Some
GL, we have
structure,
to
Uh,
configure baseline
Chart of accounts.
configuration.
right. So some people call it as enterprise structure. Heard this?
These
Right. So
come baseline
sorry,
configuration.
your voice is not clear. I think some internet difficulties. Try to rejoin. Okay. So we are not going to write this as enterprise structure. Instead, you have to write this as baseline configuration. First thing that comes in your SAP FI is baseline configuration. Once your baseline configuration is completed, that is where your FI actual configuration will come into picture. When you're talking about actual components of SAP FI, we are representing business process of an organization or business process of a company. When it comes to a baseline configuration, this is the basic structure of a company. Basic structure of a company is different. Business process of a company is different. Okay, first you are going to set up baseline configuration. Once your baseline configuration is completed, that is where you are going to actually start your financial accounting related config. Because this baseline config is all with respect to SAP org structure. In order to define your settings, in order to use your organization in the SAP, according to SAP environment, you have to design your organization. For that, we are going to use baseline config. Now, this baseline config settings are common for all the companies. It is only that based on the company, the codes, the naming convention will be different, but the settings are common for all the company codes. Now, once your baseline configuration is completed, which does not include any business process, your actual business process is after baseline. First one that you are going to define is general ledger. In short, this is called as GL module. Next one, you will have accounts payable. We will also call it as AP. Next one, you will have accounts receivable. This is called as AP. Next, you will have cash accounting. Next, you will have bank accounting. Next, you will have taxation. So taxation includes both VAT and withholding tax. Next one, asset accounting. This is your AA. These are the main business processes from SAP FI. Any other points are we missing here?
Sir, GST.
So GST is part of your VAT. VAT is nothing but your value added tax. In some countries we call it as GST, in some countries we call it as VAT, but in short that is sales and purchase tax.
Okay, sir.
Integration, sir. FI and MM, FI and SD.
Yes. Integrations. When we are talking about integrations of SAP FI, you must know about integration with MM, integration with SD, integration with PS, integration with PP, integration with PM, integration with HCM. Whether you configure, whether you test this completely or not is secondary, but the primary point is if somebody is asking you, your FI is integrated with what modules? Most of the people, especially who are trained, will talk only two modules, FIMM and FIST, which means we do not even tell that FI is integrated with other modules called PS, PP, PM, and then HCM. Okay, if you are talking about FI integration only with respect to MM, only with respect to ST, you are wrong. You are representing that you are a trained candidate. Okay, integrations done. Next.
Sir, EBRS.
BRS is part of your bank accounting.
Okay.
EBRS, manual BRS is part of your bank accounting. Your petty cash, all kind of cash transactions are part of cash accounting. Your automatic payment is part of accounts payable. Your dunning and other stuff is part of your accounts receivable. But when you write like this, only the module, are we able to differentiate with different business scenarios? No, right? If I write only GL, if I write only AP, if I write only AR, cash, bank, taxation, asset accounting, integrations, are we able to differentiate the exact business process? No, right? This is
No,
something
sir.
everybody is aware of. When I say GL, everybody is aware of, I know what is GL. Everybody is aware of what is AP, AR, cash, bank, taxation. But when somebody is actually asking you, what exactly is GL? So they do not mean you to explain GL means general ledger means a GL account. It is not that way. GL among all your SAP FI submodules is the big module. Okay, GL is the big module in SAP FI module. But when we practice it, when we configure it, we see it as very small module because we see GL only from the point of view of creating a ledger account, posting a document, displaying a report. Correct? Huh? But your entire reporting of an organization is dependent on GL module. If you do not have a GL module, these are all not possible. Okay. Now, I have written all this. Now, let me write down the business processes within each module. If you talk about GL, what exactly we will talk about from GL module? What do we normally configure from GL? You'll create a GL account, you will post a document, then once the document is posted, you have to display the document. If there is any problem in the document, you have to reverse the document. You have to display the GL line items, you have to display the GL balance, you have to display trial balance, you have to display P&L, you have to display balance sheet. So until generating your balance sheet, your GL module is involved. Okay, your financial statements like TB, P&L, balance sheet are part of GL module. If you talk about accounts payable, what exactly is accounts payable? When we talk about accounts payable, what do we exactly mean with it? What actually happening in accounts payable?
We receive
Anyone?
payments and from vendor we do business with vendor. So
Okay, we do business with vendor and we do purchases from the vendor. We will have to make the payments to the vendor, right?
yes, sir.
Now, when we talk about accounts payable, is your accounts payable majorly part of FI module or MM module in reality?
module, sir.
In reality, your accounts payable is majorly part of MM module, because any purchase that you are making, you will be purchasing through purchase order. So most of the organizations, majority of their purchase transactions, let it be a product or a service, is purchased or is procured through a purchase order. There's no direct purchases. So your FI accounts payable, whatever you do, whatever you practice, is limited. It's not the actual accounts payable which runs on a real environment. Right? So here you are going to see accounts payable only from the finance point of view, wherein you will see the vendor outstanding, you will make the payment to the vendor, and you will make automatic payment programs to the vendor. But this is the pure finance transaction. But for you to understand the actual accounts payable, you have to start from the scratch. How a company will start their purchasing, what will happen before they do any purchase. So you must be aware of purchase order, you must be aware of goods receipt, you must be aware of invoice receipt, you must be aware of vendor creation, what is payment term. There are different things that we have to be sorry, aware of. If we are aware of these points, only then your accounts payable which you have written on the SAP FI will make some value addition to your profile. If you are not aware of logistics related purchasing process, this accounts payable is not going to help you, especially to clear your interview. Because nobody wants your accounts payable knowledge, your accounts payable explanation from SAP FI point of view. Everybody wants your accounts payable explanation with a business point of view. In short, you would have heard something called P2P cycle,
Yes, sir.
right? If somebody is asking about accounts payable, you have to talk about P2P cycle. Okay, this is nothing but procurement to payment. Until the purchase, from purchase till payment, whatever happens, you have to be in a position to explain with one practical example. Let's say you want to purchase some AC. If you want to purchase an AC, normally we do. If you want to purchase for yourself, you will directly log into Amazon or whatever, or you walk into a store. You will pick whatever you want. But is it the same case for an organization to purchase?
No, sir.
Then what will an organization do if they want to purchase one AC? First, somebody will have to raise a request that AC is needed,
Yes, sir.
right? So somebody will have to raise a request that we need an AC. Who is that somebody? That somebody is a business person. This business person will represent a department or a division from an organization. Let's say from finance division, from purchasing division, from logistics division, from sales division, from administration, from HR. So from one of the divisions or from one of the departments, they will raise a request to the administration team or to the procurement team stating that the existing AC is not working properly, or the existing AC is completely down, or the ACs that we have currently are not sufficient. We need one more AC. You need to have a proper business justification. With that, they will send a request. Their request will be validated, reviewed by the respective persons. If their request is approved, it will be sent to the procurement team. Once the request is given to the procurement team, those who are not talking can go on mute. Once the request is given to the procurement team will look at the requirement. They see that we need AC. When they see the requirement of we need one AC, so it has to be clearly defined what AC you want. You want a split AC, you want a window AC, you want 1 ton AC, you want 2 ton AC, 1.5 ton AC, you have any specific brand in your mind. All these points will have to be clearly mentioned in your business requirement. If these are not mentioned in the requirement, procurement team may come back to you, or they might purchase whatever they wish. So it's always better, it's always recommended that you have your requirement clearly drafted. That we are looking for an AC for our division, for our department, 1.5 ton. So let's say Samsung or LG split AC. Then accordingly they will get the quotations from different suppliers who are giving these ACs, and they will finalize one supplier. And they will make the order from the supplier. Now once they finalize the AC, on what basis are they going to finalize the product? There is again certain criteria. They will look at the price, they will look at the other benefits, discounts, payment terms, lot of checklist they will evaluate, and then finally come to a conclusion. Let's go ahead with vendor called, let's say, Bajaj Electronics. Once they finalize a vendor, the next thing that they have to say is whether they are currently doing business with Bajaj Electronics or not. In short, is Bajaj Electronics our existing supplier or a new supplier? If Bajaj Electronics is an existing supplier, straightforward scenario, you will create a purchase order and give to the Bajaj Electronics. Based on the purchase order, Bajaj Electronics will supply the AC at your office. And once the AC is received, you will also receive a bill called invoice. So you will receive the goods, you will receive the invoice. On the other side, if Bajaj Electronics is not an existing supplier, what will happen? You will have to create Bajaj Electronics as a supplier. To create any supplier, you will have to fill up a form, either a physical form or an online form. Online form in the sense an Excel sheet. When you are filling up a new vendor creation form, you will have to fill the vendor name, contact number, contact person, address, payment method, payment terms. All the information will have to be given along with the quotation of the vendor. It's not like just like that I will send a vendor approval form and it will be created. Never happens in any organization. Okay, so you want a new vendor to be created in system to do a business. Now, after finalization of the business only, new vendor will be created, which means either you have to give a valid quotation from the vendor that you are going ahead with this purchase, or if you have already purchased without any purchase. Let's say directly you purchased, but you want to book this purchase and make the payment. So some supporting documentation is needed to create a vendor. Along with this, you will have to send this for approval. This new vendor approval form will be approved by the designated officials in every organization. Once they approve your new vendor approval form, there will be a different team called master data team. This master data team will create the vendor and provide you the vendor code or supplier code. From this vendor code, you will have to give this quotation and the new vendor code to the procurement team or purchasing team. In the purchasing team, one person will raise the PO. Once procurement team is raising the PO, he will give you the purchase order number and purchase order copy. You will take the printout from the purchase order copy from your system. Because if you have the PO number, you can go to SAP, go to the purchase order screen, put that PO number, click on print, PO will be out in the printer. Take this printout, give it to the supplier. Based on the purchase order, your supplier, who is your Bajaj Electronics, will create a sales order from their side. And they will deliver the product, you will receive the product. Once you receive the product, you will have to ask your division, you will have to ask your department to post that receipt entry, the GRN entry. Right? So in every organization, procurement team is a centralized team, which means common procurement for all the departments or for all the divisions. So when the procurement team is raising the purchase order, they will give the address of the division who actually requested. If HR department had requested for the AC, let's say procurement team is sitting in Hyderabad, HR team is sitting in Bangalore. So you will be raising a purchase order from Hyderabad stating that this AC will have to be delivered in Bangalore. So product will be delivered in Bangalore. Now in the Bangalore, from the HR department, somebody will have to verify the AC and confirm that we have received the product. It is in working condition. No damages, nothing. Whatever the product we have requested, the same product has been delivered on working condition. If somebody has access to create a GRN from the HR side in their division, they will have to create that goods receipt. If not, they have to confirm over an email to the person who is authorized to create the GRN, stating for so and so purchase order, we have received the product and it's in working condition. Everything is fine. Based on this email confirmation, the other person will create the GRN on this purchase order. Once the GRN is created, your AC will be accounted. Now, when we purchase this AC, what kind of purchase is this? Is this an asset purchase, or is this a material purchase, or is this a service purchase?
Asset purchase.
Asset purchase, sir.
This is an asset purchase, which means from now on you have to be focusing a little more. So far we discussed about purchase of AC. You created a purchase order, you received the product, now you are doing GRN. When you are doing GRN, you have to pay attention what kind of purchase it is. If this is AC purchase, AC, what is the purpose of purchasing this AC? Are we purchasing this AC for our official use, or are we purchasing this AC to sell to the customer? What is the intention?
To purchase for ourselves.
Right? We have purchased this AC for our official use to be used in the HR department, which means this is to be capitalized. This is a capex purchase. Okay, this is a capex purchase, which means capital expenditure purchase. So fixed asset purchase. So for fixed asset purchase, you will have to create a asset PO. Which PO?
Asset PO.
You'll have to create asset PO, which means while creating the purchase order itself, you have to pay attention. It's not okay, I'll create the purchase order. First, you have to know what you are purchasing. What kind of product is it? Is it for your internal usage, or is it for your customer sale purpose? If it is for your internal usage, is that a capital expenditure or a consumable, or OPEX or CAPEX? So depending on the product that you are purchasing, the nature of purchase order that you are creating will be decided. So if this is an asset purchase, you will have to capitalize this asset, which means on your purchase order, you must specify the asset code. At what stage your asset code will be mentioned in the purchase order? After receiving the AC or before receiving the AC or before creating the purchase order?
I think while
Now, so
creating
far,
the purchase order. Yeah.
right. So far, is it clear what I'm talking about, that we want to purchase an AC?
Yes, sir.
Purchase order is to be created. Now we thought, now at the time of GRN, we've realized this is an asset purchase order. For any asset purchase order, in the purchase order, asset number is mandatory. Which means before creating the purchase order, we should have the asset number.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Huh? Now this purchasing team will have to request fixed assets team. Those who are working in the fixed assets department, they will have to be given an information that we are going to purchase one AC. Please create one asset. If you are going to sell this AC to the customers, you don't have to create another code, because you will already have a material code for asset. Asset in the sense this AC. Since you are going to use it for your official purpose, you need a different asset code so that you will be able to capitalize this asset. Now, like this, you have to take one scenario and then list out all the points that happen from the first point to the last point. For every scenario, these points will keep on changing because your business requirement differs, the process differs. So if you are understanding it in a simple, straightforward, standard manner, then you are wrong. Whoever you explain this will say that no, you are wrong, because you are explaining the standard SAP process, but the other person is expecting the standard business process. Business process of any scenario that you are taking. It's up to you which scenario you will take. Let's say if you take the same scenario that we discussed, you want to purchase an AC. How your P2P cycle runs for this purchase of an AC? Then you have to clearly mention, if we are purchasing this AC for our internal usage, it is to be created as a capex. If this AC is going to be purchased for selling purpose, that you are going to sell it to a customer, then this is treated in a different way. Whether you want to inventorize, whether you want to capitalize, you have to decide. So how you are inventorizing, how you are capitalizing, if you are using these kind of terminologies, the other person will easily understand you have some practical knowledge. Your explanation may be wrong because the terms that you are using are practical, are realistic. You will get a positive feedback. If not, I will simply tell I am purchasing an AC, what is the P2P cycle? I will simply tell create a purchase order, do GRN. GRN will give you this account debit, this account credit. X account is coming from Y setting, Y account is coming from X setting. Post GRN, completed, go to invoice booking, give the purchase order, book the invoice, amount will come on the top, put the same amount at the bottom, save it, then go to accounts payable payment process, release the payment to the vendor, and then perform the bank reconciliation. P2P cycle is over. If you are telling this, this represents that you are not aware of the business process. You are aware of the standard SAP process. Because nowhere I'm mentioning, I'm only talking about how to record the transaction in SAP. Agree? I'm telling create a
Yes,
purchase
sir.
order. I'm telling do a GRN, do invoice receipt, make the payment, perform the BRS. But this anybody can tell. So that is the main reason lot of people, they do not realize why they are getting rejected in the interviews. They feel that they asked me P2P cycle, I told everything, my accounting entry is also correct, I also mentioned OBYC transaction code T030 table where this OBYC settings are stored. Still I am rejected. You are rejected not because of you have given incorrect answer, because you have given answer in an incorrect way. Your answer is not convincing enough to a person who is working in SAP. Because when you are learning, the way you will be taught is different, but when you're explaining, the way you will have to explain is different. These two are extremely different. Initially, you will be taught purchase order creation, goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment, BRS to make you understand. This is only the base for you to understand P2P cycle. Straight away, if somebody is explaining you the whole picture, you will go mad. You will not understand. So they'll give you the basic insights of it, basic inputs about it, just to create an idea. But we assume this basic insight is complete P2P cycle, and we feel happy that I am good at P2P cycle. But there are different scenarios in it. We don't need to know all the scenarios, but whatever the 2-3 scenarios that you are aware of, make sure whoever you explain this will say that you are correct. And whatever you want to verify, whether you are learning correct, whether your knowledge is right or wrong, the only one point that you have to do is never discuss what you are learning with the people who are learning like you. Check with people who are working on SAP. You will get to know a lot of people who are working on SAP. Use LinkedIn or check in your circle. If you're already learning SAP FICO means you must have some contacts who are working on SAP FICO, at least to check your knowledge, to test your knowledge. This is what I am learning from my trainer. Is this correct? This is how we have learned P2P cycle. Is this what you are doing? This is how we are creating a document. Is this how you are creating a document in your project, in your client, in your user? Is this the same? Then you will come to know. But nobody will do these kind of things. We will do these kind of things after completion of our course. Then we will feel that what we have learned, what I have learned is wrong. Right? Mistake is there from our side also, that we are not validating, we are not verifying what we are learning. So do not blindly trust anybody who says this is the course content, this is what you are going to learn. After completion of 2 months, 3 months course, you will become a consultant. That is not the reality. It's highly impossible for you to learn SAP FICO in 3 months. It's highly impossible for you to get a job within 3 months. 99% not possible. Unless you are going for proxy interview, unless you are going for backdoor jobs. Okay, so this is about your P2P cycle. Likewise, for everything you have to know the base business process. Whether you know how this is done on SAP or not is always secondary. It's always secondary, because tomorrow when you're on any interview, everybody will expect you to speak out in a proper manner, in a proper way, in a convincing manner. Agree? Nobody will give you system, nobody will ask you to type the transaction code. I will give you 2 attempts. Within 2 attempts, you have to put right transaction code. Will anybody give you like that?
No, sir.
Will anybody ask you to tell what is appearing on this screen, what fields will be there on this screen? No, those days are gone. But now everybody wants to know how effective you are on the business process, because there is a huge competition in the market. People like you, people like me, people like others are so many. And tomorrow you are going to market to get a job, which means you are going to compete with a person who is already working on SAP. As we discussed, we are going to market showing some experience. We are giving an impression to the other person, you are an experienced candidate. Am I correct? If I am going to the
Yes, sir.
market with 3 years of experience, 4 years of experience, there may be a chance another person is coming to the same interview for the same position, for the same company with a genuine 2 years of experience, a genuine 3 years of experience. Agree? Possible? Because
Yes, sir.
now there are a lot of people who are starting their career as a fresher, because a lot of companies are taking freshers into SAP domain, especially from the college pass outs. They'll go and pick the BCom final year students or B school final year students, MBA college final year students, or CA freshers, CWA freshers. So they are actually freshers. Company will hire them, company will train them. Now after 2 years, if they want to change, they are also with 2 years genuine experience, but you are 4 years projected experience. You are far experienced than them, but in reality, can we compete with them? Can we
No,
compete
sir.
with them in reality? No, right? So that is how you have to think during your learning, during your practice, during your preparation. Whether you are able to compete with another experienced candidate, genuine experienced candidate. Never compare yourself with another person who is getting it trained like you from a different trainer. There you are going to compare your trainers, not your learning. There your skill is kept aside. You will tell that my trainer told like this, my trainer is telling me like this. Don't compare what your trainer is telling. Compare what you are learning, whether it is right or wrong. That's it. What your trainer is telling is correct and what is actually happening in a project is correct, then you are good. But we will compare, the trainers, unfortunately, but not the content that we are learning. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right? We are not supposed to blame the other person. Blame yourself that you have not done any effort from your side. You blindly followed somebody. It is your mistake. You wanted to get into SAP, you want to learn SAP, you want to make a career in SAP as a FICO consultant. But it is your responsibility to put some additional homework, to put additional effort, to know what is actually SAP FICO. Do we actually complete course in 3 months? Will I actually get job after 3 months? Did we talk to people who are already trained on SAP, who are working on SAP? We will not do all this, but we will go ahead with some different ways, which will always give us, shocking surprises at the end. So that should not be the scenario, right? We have to talk openly, we have to talk frankly, because today if I hide things from you, tomorrow you will come to know the reality. It's not that I am hiding something which I am alone aware of. It's nothing like, right? I am talking the things which are open. You can go talk to anybody who is working on SAP. You'll come to know what I am telling, whether it is right or wrong. Always check whatever you are learning. Even from me, if you join, whatever I am training you, you are free to verify on the same day with any person who is working on SAP FICO. If I show you a process, let's say there are 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, don't blindly trust me. Listen to what I am telling. After that, you practice what I told, understand in your way, but make sure you verify this process with a person who is working on SAP FICO as a consultant, real-time consultant. Check, this is what my trainer had told me about this process. Is this correct? If he says correct, fine. If he says not correct, ask them what went wrong in it, then come back to me and ask me. You told me this, but I checked with my friend or somebody who is working on SAP. They said this is not correct. Come back and put a question to me. I'll tell you why I told you like this. But you have to learn at that level. Clear? At that level you
Yes,
have to
sir.
learn. At that level you have to verify. It's not that whatever I'm telling you feel that he is telling very nice, he is talking facts. It's not that I'm talking facts, it's not that I'm talking very nicely and all, but it is from your side to decide what I'm talking is making sense to you or not. Because most of the people will get attracted to the different content, in the sense, if I say that SAP FICO is very easy, only this is the content, P2P cycle is very easy, within 45 days you will complete, within 60 days you will complete, most of the people will get attracted. Considering the fact I am learning fast, I will get into the market fast. But another thing, you will also quit SAP fast. You leave SAP at the same past because the reality is different. Now, this is all about your P2P cycle. If you take some example, similarly, accounts receivable, AP side, if it is P2P, what is this called?
O2C,
Good to catch.
This is O2C. What is O2C?
order to cash.
Order
In
to
that
cash. Order
we
means what order?
a sales order,
Sales
sir.
order.
Cash means payment receipt from the customer.
Receive. Yeah.
Right? Here also same thing. What will happen? Can anybody tell what happens in this?
So we create a first sales order that we have sold this kind of things we have like our business things, and then order we issue the post good issue thing that we have
Hmm,
issued the goods like the same way we do the GR receipt. Here we do
hmm.
issue receipt. We maintain that thing in our system. After that, we receive the payment. So we have to also do entry for that receiving of payment.
Right. If whatever you have told is correct, in terms of system, in terms of data entry, that is correct. You'll have to create a sales order, you have to do goods issue, you'll have to do invoice booking, you'll have to receive the payment and do the payment booking. But the same thing, if we tell in any interview, this will not be a valid answer. The other person most likely will get, some kind of a feel that you are a trained candidate because you told only the config process or the end user data entry process. Correct?
Yes, sir, true.
Yes.
He will not cross, sir. He
Now,
will directly in the end reject.
now let's say you have to raise a sales order, but how do you get an order? First of all, you'll have to get an order. But who will bring this order? Are you opening any store on an online platform? No, right?
No, sir.
Right, it's not like your organization is not like an Amazon or it's like you have a website wherein you go and purchase. It is not that way. So it depends on the nature of business that you're talking about. Let's say some customer walked into your store. He said that I want to purchase this. If you talk about a car, your customer had come and then he said that I want to buy this car. Is this something that you will deliver on the spot? No, right?
No.
No, sir.
Right? So no customer will come and buy the car on the spot. It's very rare incident because first of all, you will not have stock in your warehouse. So what you will do, you will ask your customer if you are interested to buy this, you can place an order. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? If you're interested, you can place an order. But how do you blindly trust a customer? If it is a small product, if he is a well-known customer, if he is an existing customer, you will trust him. What if he is a new customer? How do you trust a customer who is unknown, who is coming for the first time, and how do you make an order? So you will tell, make some initial payment, down payment or advance payment, or make some token amount. So let's say if the car value is 8 lakhs, he is paying some 10,000 or 5,000 rupees as a token advance. So based on this token advance, based on this initial amount, you are going to create a sales order and you are going to book this 5,000 received as advance. And you will tell your customer, if not interested, within this time frame, you can cancel your order anytime. We will give you full refund. If you are canceling, you will not get refund. Or if you cancel, you will have some cancellation charges. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's say if you are implementing SAP for some Honda showroom, Maruti showroom, or Tata Motors, this is how their business process runs. For them, whatever they get is only sales, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, are they not using SAP? They are all in SAP only. So once you create the sales order, you will have to know if the person who wants to purchase is an existing customer or a new customer. Always when somebody is asking you, mention this point very specifically while creating the sales order. First thing that you will check is if the customer is an existing customer or a new customer. If existing customer, you will straight away create the sales order. If a new customer, it will have to undergo new customer approval form. Again, this is sensitive information. You are selling a product to the customer. Will customer pay back the amount, or he will run away after receiving the product? Is he giving the correct address, or is he giving the fake address? Possible.
Definitely possible, sir.
So you have different divisions within the company. You have the normal collection department. You will have the credit control department, which will validate this. Once everything is validated, then you will create the customer code. You will share it with the team who has requested. Then they will create the sales order with the product the customer is looking for, and you will create the tentative delivery date, during what time this product will be handed over to the customer. Once the sales order is created, you will have to deliver the product to the customer or hand over the service to the customer on the pre-described delivery date. On that delivery date, when you are delivering the product or delivering the service, you will do PGI, post goods issue process in SAP. When you do it, again there will be one accounting entry. Your X account will be debited, Y account will be credited, and here comes a question, from where these accounts are coming. When you are doing a sales order delivery, everybody may not be aware of this. Some people will still tell that during the sales order delivery, your accounting entries are coming from VKOA setting, which is wrong. During sales delivery, because they specifically ask like this, for sales delivery, for sales PGI, from where the accounting entries are picked up. If you are telling these are picked up from FISD integration, you are wrong. Absolutely wrong. No surprise, only for that reason you may get rejected, because your sales delivery accounting entries will be picked up from your integration settings. Anything related to material, is clear cut, straightforward integration. When you are delivering goods, you are issuing product to the customer, which means you have to reduce your stock quantity. Any additions, any deductions to the material or inventory stock is pure activity. So this will again come from your OBYC setting. And once you deliver the product, you will have to do the billing to the customer. When you are billing to the customer, you have to ensure you are selecting the right customer code, information is correct. You have to know how to check all this information. Once your billing is posted, here comes another question. You have made a sale to the customer. Let's say you have sold a product for 8 lakh rupees. How do I know what profit I made by selling this product? How do we know that if we made a sale, what profit we have made? Any idea, anyone?
Revenue minus your cost will be your profit.
Revenue
Sir,
minus cost will be the profit, correct.
Yeah.
But from this accounting entry, will I be able to know?
no, sir. We have to
No.
book some other account for that.
Straightforward.
Right? For profit, there is no accounting entry is recorded. Okay, so this is another question which will be asked by interviewers to check your practical knowledge. Now you talk about OTC cycle, you tell sales order, goods delivery, billing, payment. But if I want to know what profit I made from this sale, how do I know? There is no accounting entry for it. If you want to know product level profit, you have to depend on controlling module. There is one area in controlling which will tell you product level profit. Any idea what that area?
Opa.
You have something called COPA. COPA is where
Yes.
you will come to know product level profit. Your accounting will never tell you what is the product level profit. Your accounting will only tell you operating profit. Your business overall profit you will come to know from financial accounting. But if I want to know from a particular sale, from a particular invoice, what profit I have made, I have to depend on COPA. profitability analysis. So if you are telling OTC cycle, but if you are telling I am not aware of COPA, then also you are rejected. Because nobody is going to ask you to tell the COPA configuration, COPA business process. But as part of OTC cycle, you are supposed to know about COPA, the data flow at least, business process flow. Okay, customer is created. In case of a new customer, sales order is created, delivery is done, invoice is booked, payment is received, BRS is done. But on a particular day, for some reason, I want to know what profit I made from it. If I have COPA, it is fine. If I do not have COPA, if I am not aware of COPA, how will I know what profit I have made from it? I have to refer to accounting entries.
Yes, sir.
What are those two accounting entries? First one is your post goods issue accounting entry, wherein you will debit cost of goods sold account and
Cost of
credit the
goods sold.
material account. Second one, you will be debiting customer account, you will be crediting sales account.
Sale.
Take the cost of a goods sold account and take the sales account. Deduct this cost of a goods sold value from sales value. Whatever the amount left will be your profit. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Either you have to tell this, but this is not accepted. But to some extent, okay, that the other person can still feel that you are aware of it. But the actual thing that you have to talk about is COPA. Nobody will ask you cross questions. It is from your side to put these points while explaining to your interviewer. When somebody is asking about OTC cycle, talk until COPA. Don't go in depth, don't go in detail into anything, just bring the point. If you want to know the product level profit on this, we have to refer or we have to depend on COPA, which will tell market segment based profitability or what profit margin we are gaining from this particular sale. If you are telling these points, the other person will not ask you cross questions also, because they realize that the process flow you are good at, you are telling all this only when you are aware of it.
Yes, sir.
Because these points cannot be by hearted. Unless you do, unless you are clear with, you cannot talk like these points. Okay, this is about your OTC cycle. Then if you talk about cash accounting, when we talk about cash accounting, we mean making any kind of a cash transaction. Let it be a payment, let it be a receipt. There are only two possibilities: cash payment, cash receipt.
Yes.
How our cash payments will be made, how our cash payments will be received. Now, there is something called reconciliation. When it comes to cash accounting, your cash accounting is subject to daily reconciliation. Any organization who operates or who deals in cash will have to verify the cash balance every day twice, morning and evening. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Opening and
Morning and
closing.
evening, they'll have to validate, they'll have to physically check what is the cash opening balance on your day starts, and you have to physically count the cash that the amount is tallying. At the end of the day, you have to check the cash closing balance from the system, physically count the cash. First thing that we have to aware of this process, any company who is dealing with the cash will have a daily reconciliation. So your cash transactions are all recorded in some process called cash journal in SAP. So configuration point of view, cash journal is very simple. There are only 3 steps to configure. There are only 3 T codes. You will complete cash journal within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes. It will not take more than 10-15 minutes to complete your cash journal config. But you have to pick different scenarios from it. Okay, so they might ask you, what do you mean by cash reconciliation? How do they verify if cash is matching or not matching? If cash on my hand is correct, if I verify with the transactions that I have performed today, but on SAP it is not matching, what could be the reason? They'll ask you likewise. But any cash journal, you have two type of entries, right? Saved entries and then posted entries. Whether you save, whether you post, on your screen cash balance will get updated. Sometimes you may only save it, you may forget to post it. Your cash balance is still updated, but physically this transaction did not take place. You forgot to save it, post it. So there will be a mismatch. How do you reconcile these mismatches? How do you reverse a cash entry? What are the control points that you have for cash postings? Now, are we supposed to record manual entries in cash accounts?
No, sir. It will take a whole lot of time.
First of all, that is not allowed. Okay, if you're giving an option to record entries into the cash account manually, that is a mistake. No manual entry is allowed in cash account, because if you record a transaction in the cash GL account directly, it is very difficult for us to reconcile. So you have to strictly use cash journal screen for any kind of cash transaction. And you need to have some limitation for your transaction. Let's say if I am posting cash transaction, I should not allow my user to record any amount in my petty cash. I should put a limit. Beyond 2000, beyond 5000, beyond 10,000, no payment is made, no payment is received in cash. So what kind of control points you will put in the system to restrict these kind of entries? I want to have
Correct.
maker checker concept. Let's say the person who is recording the cash transaction will not be able to post it. If I am recording a cash transaction, I should only save the entry, and I have to take a printout of the cash transactions that I've saved. I have to give to my superior or the senior accountant or somebody. They will review, they will check the cash, they will review the transaction, then they will post it. I want to have dual control on the process. How you will bring these kind of points in picture? So these kind of questions is what you will be asked when you're in the interview. As I said, if you want to do configuration of petty cash, it's only a 15-minute job. But when we take out different scenarios from it, it will be different task. And if you post any cash journal, you will get a different document number other than FI. Every cash journal transaction will give you two type of numbers. One is cash journal document number, the other one is GL document number. Now your cash journal document number is different, your GL document number is different. If I know cash journal document number, how do I find the proper or the relevant accounting document number in my GL account? How do I trace it? We have to answer all these kind of questions. If you tell I do not know, then it's of no use. You have configured cash journal. It's of no use. You told to the interviewer that you have implemented cash journal for some client, because these are basic questions. If I want to reverse a cash transaction, how do I reverse? Or I reversed a cash transaction by mistakenly, how do I bring it back? Instead of reversing 100 rupee cash payment, I reversed another 100 rupee cash payment, which is not supposed to be reversed. How do I bring it back and then reverse the other one which has to be reversed? So these points will create a lot of confusions in our mind. These are subject to confusions. But are we able to overcome this confusion and then explain with clear confidence? This matters. If you are able to overcome this confusion state and you are able to explain confidently, nobody will stop you no matter what. The person who doesn't like you because of any reason will come and sit next to you, talk to you, because you have the knowledge. Because your understanding is something different, which will give solution. These are the practical things which will happen. Similarly, if you talk about bank accounting, it's all about your banks, the banks that your company is operating with. You'll have to treat every bank as a house bank in SAP. You will have to have main account, sub account concept, and then you'll have to perform a BRS. The whole objective of bank accounting is BRS, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have two types of BRS. One is your manual BRS, other one is electronic BRS. Before you get into manual BRS or electronic BRS, or in fact, before you get into BRS into SAP, first we have to put a question to ourselves, are we aware of BRS first? Do you know about BRS first? Can you write accounting entries of BRS? If you do not know accounting entries of BRS, you will not be able to understand BRS in SAP, no matter what. I'm only talking about understanding BRS in SAP. I'm not talking about configuration in BRS. I'm not mentioning configuration anywhere because to know configuration, to be honest, there is no point of joining any course. There is no point of investing any money to know the configuration. Configuration documents are openly available on the Google. Configuration documents from SAP itself you will get. Okay, even if you Google find out some documents, don't blindly download any document, don't blindly refer any document. Refer official SAP documentation. If you want to refer some websites, don't refer any website just like that, whatever comes when you search on Google. That is also an art. Which website to refer, what content to refer, how do we verify whether the content on the Google, what you're reading is correct or not correct? Lot of content on the Google is incorrect that we are not aware. A lot of things that we find on Google is incorrect. But since we have no idea, we will blindly follow whatever is mentioned there, we will by heart it, we'll tell the same thing. But that is another mistake. So you must know which sources to follow to refer online. If you are Googling, you must know how to Google, which link to open, which one to follow. Right, first you have to know about the basics of BRS, how BRS is performed in any organization. And then you think from SAP point of view, how BRS is performed in SAP. Why we are talking about electronic BRS, why we are talking about manual BRS. What kind of a BRS is normally used in any organization? Focus on that area only. If you're talking about manual BRS is not widely used in SAP. Majoritarily, electronic BRS is used. But if you compare electronic BRS and manual BRS, 90% it is the same. Concept, configuration, everything, 90% it is the same. Only the 10% difference is your file. In MT940, what kind of a file formats are available? You have BAI format, you have MT940 format. At least you must know the two file formats, MT940 and BAI format, and in which format the file is saved. These two are text files, we call it as flat files. Okay, so you must practice with MT940 format, and you must know how to read MT940 format, because in your interview they will ask you, how do you read MT940 format? How do you understand MT940? What is opening balance? What is statement date, statement number, transaction, note to payee, closing balance? They'll ask you what are the different tags in MT940. There is a 2-digit number, right? 60, 60F, 62, 86 and all, 62. So you must know these tag numbers, and they will ask you how SAP understands this MT940 format. How will system read? How system understands that I have to match this transaction with this transaction? What settings you are making? So your configuration, whatever you are telling, make sure you are able to explain the same configuration with one requirement. If this is the requirement, this is how I am going to configure it. Only with that requirement your configuration adds value. Without any requirement, without any scenario, if you are only talking about configuration, that will not add any value. Right? If you perform BRS, is this sure that the moment you upload BRS, all the balances will tally? It will not tally. Majority of the cases, the moment you upload the BRS, your bank balances will not tally. There are certain transactions which are unposted. what we are going to do for the transactions which are not posted. So how do you verify whether all the transactions are posted or not? Which screen you will refer? If the statement that is uploaded is wrong, but some entries are posted, how do you remove it? So these kind of points is what we have to know, because at this area only you will be questioned tomorrow. If you know these areas at high level, upfront you can go and talk to anybody that this is how BRS happens, this is how this process happens. First thing is to make sure that we are able to talk about a topic, at least some lines, maybe 1-2 minutes. But remove SAP screens, SAP configuration, SAP T code from your mind. Inject only the business process. If BRS I have to perform, what happens? First of all, your client will have to get the statement. How will your client get the statement? Is your statement sent by your bank person to the treasury team sitting in your office, or your treasury team will log into online banking, download the statement, or there is any interface between your SAP and the banking system so that the statements are automatically downloaded, shared? They'll ask these kind of questions. Okay. And then taxation. You have VAT and withholding a tax. So do not restrict yourself when you're talking about taxation to GST. GST is a taxation applicable only in India. But you're talking about taxation in India or taxation in SAP. What is the requirement? What is the requirement? Is this taxation in SAP or taxation in India? What is the requirement of learning taxation?
Taxation in India.
Taxation in India is the requirement, or taxation in SAP is the requirement?
In India is required.
Taxation in
It's
India.
not, it is never the case. You have to know taxation in SAP. According to SAP, it is tax, right? Goods and services tax or value added tax. Now, this taxation differs from country to country. But if you configure taxation for India, if you configure taxation for any other country, are you going to change configuration settings, T codes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, no?
Yes.
No.
Country to country change.
Configuration in SAP.
No, sir,
Configuration,
configuration
sir.
won't change. Only
Configuration T
codes and
codes,
percentage will change.
right? Now, according to SAP, if you talk from configuration point of view, it is the same irrespective of the country, right? Since taxation is a legal requirement, it's a legal requirement, it differs from country to country. There may be some process related changes, but from config point of view, it will be the same. And for every country, SAP will give you some tax related notes, tax related configuration documentation, because this is valid on if you talk about GST. If you talk about GST is valid only in India. If you take 18% GST, you have to split 18% into 9, correct?
Yes, sir. CGST, SGST.
Now, if I say that you worked on Indian GST and I want you to work for some other country's taxation, you will not be able to do it. Even if I ask you to configure it, you will end up configuring the tax. If I say 10 percentage, you will end up putting 5%, 5%, because in your mind it is saved as any taxation you have to split to CGST, SGST, IGST, correct?
Yes, sir.
But if you are knowing that way, put a clear segregation in your mind that this is applicable only for Indian taxation. If you work for any other country taxation, whatever the configuration knowledge you have should be helpful, because it is the same. What tax codes they have, what tax percentages, how tax has to be determined, your client will explain you, because that is a country specific legal requirement. But you're not going to change your configuration. When you go to the system, don't put GST India, IGST, SGST and all. Then you're wrong. You have blindly by hearted the configuration. If you work for India, you will know only about Indian taxation. But tomorrow, if I want you to work for Australia, if I want you to work for US, if I want you to work for some other Dubai or Singapore, Malaysia, no rule that you may have to work for any project, for any client when you're in a project. And the
Majorly,
taxation
we have to.
knowledge, alright, the taxation knowledge you have must be dynamic. Dynamic in the sense, it is not restricted, it is not limited to GST. GST valid only in India. It has got some additional settings. All these additional settings you will find SAP notes. SAP will tell you to get this report, to get this, implement this note, do this setting, do these corrections. That SAP will tell you. SAP will take care of it. But your responsibility is only to understand the tax procedure, how tax has to be calculated. So at that level, you have to pay attention. Then you can talk about taxation to anybody. If somebody is asking, but your experience on taxation is in India, but our project is in Singapore, but we want a person who is experienced in Singapore taxation or who can work on Singapore taxation, then you must have that guts to talk that taxation in SAP is the same. I've worked for Indian taxation, so I told you Indian taxation config, but I can also handle Singapore taxation. You have to tell that this is localization object in SAP, which means country to it differs. For this, SAP releases notes, configuration remains standard. So these points, if you are able to answer, the other person will get impressed. But what we will feel that no, you worked only for Indian client, but we are looking for somebody who worked on a global client, maybe for some other abroad client. Then we feel that, oh, okay, to work for a Singapore project, we must be a Singapore citizen or we must have worked already in Singapore client. Nothing like that. But you have to give them confidence that there is nothing like that. You can handle anything. But sometimes people put these kind of tricky questions to expect these kind of answers from you. If you tell, oh, okay, if you're keeping quiet, then gone. Okay, this is about your taxation. Next is your withholding tax. It is also same. This is valid in some countries, not valid in some countries. But the process, config, everything is same. The only point you have to understand is there are two types of taxations. One is classic withholding, the other one is extended withholding. If you are on classic GL, you will be using a classic withholding tax. If you are on new GL, you will be using extended withholding tax. But majoritarily, everybody will be using extended withholding tax. Now, asset accounting. Now, this is one of the key areas in SAP FI. Most of the people are afraid of it. But in fact, this is the easiest topic in FI. Because this is straightforward a number game. If you are able to calculate the numbers, if you are comfortable with the number, asset accounting is very easy. If you learn this properly, you can get into SAP stating that you worked only on asset accounting. People are ready to take you, even though if you mention that you worked only on asset accounting for 2 years, 3 years, understand that it has got such impact. Because every company will have a huge number of assets and you have to be in a position to understand calculations, different scenarios in it. If you are able to understand, then it's fine. You can mention that you worked in your past 2 years, 3 year, 4 year experience. Majorly your contribution was on asset accounting. Fine. But other areas, make sure that you have basic understanding. You will still get into SAP. But what kind of scenarios you will get, you have to understand. But one point to be mentioned in your asset accounting here, I'm not sure most of you would have already done asset accounting. I'll say chart of depreciation, depreciation areas, ledgers, currencies, depreciation keys, accounting principles. This will be one. How many depreciation areas we need minimum?
One.
Two.
One. Okay. I'll say one or two. How many ledgers?
Two.
5 to 6.
Currencies should be minimum two. Depreciation keys
Two.
minimum
Two.
two. Accounting principles
Minimum
minimum two.
two.
Here
Minimum
also
two.
two. Anywhere if you have one here, anywhere if you find one here in your practice, that is wrong asset accounting. Wrong asset accounting. Okay, if you have only one depreciation area, this asset accounting, do not talk anywhere when in your interview. Do not explain this process to anybody in your interview or in your project. Okay, if you have one ledger, do not explain this asset accounting process to anybody in your interview. One currency, do not. One depreciation key, one accounting principle, forget that asset accounting. Upfront you will get rejected. Anywhere if you talk about one here, anywhere if you put one, upfront you will get rejected, because you are talking about asset accounting with one depreciation area, one ledger, one currency, one depreciation key, one accounting principle. This will not be there in any of the real project. Check with anybody who is working on SAP in your network. Ask them to open their asset accounting config. Tell them to verify how many depreciation areas are there, how many ledgers are assigned, how many currencies are there, how many accounting principles are there. If you have already practiced anywhere in one, remove that asset accounting from your mind. Okay, so this kind of asset accounting is exclusively available in training institutes, not there in any of the real environment. Verify this with any of your friends who is working on SAP. Only if your asset accounting is created with this, these are all the minimum numbers, minimum two areas. In fact, you will have 6 areas. Minimum two areas, two currencies, you may have up to 10 currencies in S4 HANA. Minimum two depreciation keys, maximum can be multiple. Minimum two accounting principles, maximum can be 3 to 4. But this content, if you are able to do it, your asset accounting is correct. You can confidently explain to anybody. If not, please do not tell this asset accounting to anybody, because this process itself will lead to rejection. Even if somebody is telling it's in practice environment, it is fine, not fine. First time, whatever the asset accounting goes into your mind, most likely that is only will stick to our mind. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So first time, if you are injecting incorrect process, rectifying that later on is very difficult. You will have to struggle a lot to come out of that confusion. Once this setup is done, then you will have to execute different scenarios in asset accounting. Asset purchases, asset additions, retirement, depreciation calculations. You have so many scenarios in asset accounting, and a lot of clients will have many issues in asset accounting, because this is one area where you cannot do any manipulation. Now, when we talk about accounting, it's very standard, it's very common that you can do manipulation by passing one more JV, correct? My
Yes, sir.
balances are showing more. I can pass one entry to reduce the balance. But in asset, it is not like that. No manual intervention is allowed in SAP asset accounting. You can do nothing manually to the asset. Everything is system calculated number, strictly system calculated number. If you are not clear with the logic, if you have not understood the concept clearly, your calculation is always against SAP calculation. Both will not be the same. But it has to be the way, whatever you put on your Excel sheet or on your paper calculator, if you take the same case on SAP, you have to get the same number. It is always do your calculation manually on an Excel sheet, take one asset, take a date, purchase, sale, retire, whatever you want to do, create the same asset on SAP on the same dates, perform the transactions, verify the report, number including a decimal has to match with your manual calculation. If you get 220.50 on SAP also, it should be 220.50. Don't decode it by taking SAP number and then try to understand. That will never work out, because SAP is working on configuration, but you're not working on configuration, right? You're working based on concept, you're working based on law. Asset accounting is again one of the localization legal requirement. For country to country, asset accounting treatment differs. In every company code, there are minimum two type of asset calculations. One for local reporting, one for group reporting. So two accounting principles will be there. If you take India, you have to perform in fact three type of asset calculations. One according to Indian Companies Act, two according to Indian Income Tax Act, three according to Global Accounting Principle IFRS. So are we able to calculate one asset with three numbers is what you have to verify. And you have to do calculations manually on the Excel sheet. Go to SAP, create the same thing on SAP, make sure exact number including a decimal is coming from SAP. If you are able to do it, this is not difficult, very simple. If you are able to do it, highlight only asset accounting on your resume, you can go get job in SAP. Highlight, because if you work in a big company, you will not be working on everything. You will be limited to certain areas. You may be working only on asset accounting, you may be working only on taxation areas, you may be working only on cash bank, only on APAR, only on GL. Sometimes you may be working on all the areas. It differs, right? And you may get different scenario based questions. Let's say in your organization, auditing is happening. Everybody knows what is auditing. You have two audits, internal audit, external audit. Is this common in every company or not? Auditing,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
right? Assuming your yearly external auditing is going on, and on one asset, your auditor has found that you are overstating your asset value. When I say you are overstating your asset value or you are understating your asset value, according to the current valuation, according to the current calculations, your asset is showing us 2,50,000, but whereas it has to be 2,38,000. Okay, it has to be 2,38,000, but your balance sheet is showing the asset value as 2,50,000. Now, are we showing the value more or less? It has to be 238, but on the balance sheet it is reflecting as 250. Are we overstating or understating?
Overstating.
You are overstating. Now you may get similar scenarios in your interview. Let's say during your audit, your auditor has found that certain assets have been overstated, certain assets have been understated, and these are to be rectified. The asset values will have to be properly rectified in order to pass the audit. Now your user may not be aware, your client, your business may not be aware. They will raise this to your SAP team. So now as a FICO consultant, you have to step in, understand which assets are overstated, which assets are understated. They might ask you why these values are coming wrong. As a FICO consultant, you have to answer that question. If that is done, next thing they will ask you, we have to bring this asset value from 250 to 238. What you are going to do? They'll simply tell your client is very clear stating, I have to make this 250 as 238. Please tell me how to do. This is an old asset. Let's say you have been using this asset for last 2 years. But now this value has to be brought down. What will happen to the depreciation that is already posted for the last 2 years? First of all, how this is to be done? You have something called asset revaluations. To do asset revaluation, what configuration is needed? What scenario you will be using this revaluation concept? What accounting entry system will pass for this? What will happen to the already posted depreciation? These kind of questions is what you are going to get in your interview if somebody wants to check your asset accounting knowledge. Let's say if you take another scenario, let's say that you have a showroom or office. Now this is common for every company. Either they'll have a showroom or they have an office. And there is a fire
Yes, sir.
in the office. When there is a fire in the office, everything is burnt, right? There is a loss. In your office, in your showroom, do you have assets or not?
We have.
Now, how are we going to identify that if this showroom has been fired and there is a loss and there are a lot of assets which have been burnt? Now you have to remove those assets from your accounting. Now they are no more existing, right? They have been burnt, fired. How you are going to identify? Are we going to have 1-2 assets in a showroom or in an office, or you'll have multiple assets?
We will have multiple, sir.
Multiple
You'll have
assets.
multiple assets, right? How you are going to identify multiple assets of a showroom? On what basis you are going to identify? Okay, let's say you've identified there are somewhere around 450 assets are there. Now you have to remove the 450 asset value from the books. Correct? Huh? We have to remove this 450 asset values from the book. How do you remove it? You have to scrap all the 450 assets. How you are going to scrap these assets? I cannot ask user to go scrap one by one 450 times. Will user be okay with it?
No, sir.
No, he will never say no, you please do it from your side. I will send an email. You will also be not okay with it. Then how you are going to do these kind of things? You must know something called work list. There's something called work list in asset accounting. You must know what is asset work list. With the help of asset work list, you can retire this 450 assets in one click. Just with one click, 450 assets will get retired by scrapping. So if these kind of scenarios are given, are we able to answer? Or if somebody is asking you to tell an issue where you faced some challenges, difficult situations, tell that this is how, tell these kind of scenarios which are practical. and peculiar scenarios. Right, so this is about your asset accounting. Then you have your integrations. Now when you talk about integrations, you have to talk about different modules that are integrated with SAP FI. When we're talking about integrations with SAP FI, we are specifically talking about posting a journal entry in accounting. Am I correct? We're talking about integration, we are exclusively talking about posting a journal entry. Debit credit will be posted in your finance module automatically. That is where I'm talking
Yes, sir.
about integration. Right? Nobody will go put 40, 50 debit credit. It comes automatically based on another activity. If I do something, another thing will happen in accounting, for which you have to maintain some settings in background. That is your integration related settings. If you talk about MM, SD, PS, PP, PM, HCM, there are different things. From MM, SD side, you will have the goods movement, sale, purchases. From PS, PP, PM side, you will have the settlements. You will be settling PS order, you will be settling PP order, you will be settling PM order. Whenever you are performing this settlements, result analysis, variances, they will get settled and the relevant accounting entry will hit your financials. If you're talking about HCM, your payroll data will get recorded in your FI, because the consolidated entry for payroll will be recorded in your payroll module, HR module, employee voices, salary, bonus, whatever. But the consolidated entry for the total salary for the month will get posted in your accounting. So at what stage, at what area your FI is integrated with these modules, you should at least have basic understanding. You don't have to tell the config where you are going to maintain GL account and all, not needed. You can tell that I forgot the T code, fine, accept it, but do not tell that I forgot the process. It's accepted if you forget the T code, it's accepted if you forget the IMG path, if you forget the table, but it is never accepted if you forget the process, if you forget the scenario. I can tell I don't know which T code, but something related to, I don't remember, fine, accepted. But tell what happens. What accounting entry will get posted. You have to tell the accounting entry very strictly. If you're talking about MM, if you're purchasing any goods, at the time of goods receipt, what accounting entry will come? You will debit material account, you will credit GRIR account. From where material is coming, from where GRIR is coming. Similarly, if you're selling the material, you are issuing the material to the customer, what will happen? You will debit cost of goods sold, you will credit material. From where cost of goods sold is coming, from where material is coming. Likewise, you have to understand. For this, you don't have to log into SAP. You don't have to practice. If you know the business process, half of the interview you can clear with this knowledge itself. Because this is what they want from you. To gain confidence, you have to practice in SAP. But to gain the business process, if you understand the flow, that is enough. Because half an hour, how much they will ask, how much you will tell. Correct? I cannot ask everything in 30 minutes. You cannot tell everything in 30 minutes. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir. True.
But whatever the base points that you're talking about is what going to matter a lot. For everything you're starting with configuration T code, upfront you're rejected. Because I am under impression that apart from config, you know nothing. You know only configurations. I don't want your config knowledge, because tomorrow if you join the organization, I will give you the configuration document. I will ask you to look at the document, configure on the system. You cannot say, no, I did a lot of practice, I created 100 company codes, blindly also I can do the settings. They will tell you, please open your eyes and then do it. Take the printout, keep the paper on your hand, look at the system, look at the requirement and then do it. That important That much importance will be given to the config. Nobody will believe in your configuration. They want you to look at the config standard documents, pay attention to the business requirement, then only config. Because once you save, it is difficult to delete. Delete option in SAP is very difficult, very risky. Sometimes this is possible, sometimes this is impossible to delete. So you have to be very careful while saving anything. Just like that, blindly we are not supposed to configure anything on SAP. Okay, these are only the basic points, basic areas of SAP FI. But apart from this, there are a lot of points which are not part of these areas. There are a lot of things which are not part of these areas. Like you have validations, you have substitutions, screen variants, transaction variants, you will have LSMW, you will have LTMC, you will have mask changes, you will have APP, okay, you will have check printing, payment letters, in short DME, right? You have customer statements called as correspondences, aging reports, okay, payment reports, identification of partial payments. How do you identify partial payment? Let's say you've recorded some 10 payments to a customer or to a vendor, but out of 10 payments, there are 3 partial payments. How do I understand that these 3 are partial payments? What is outstanding from this invoice? Okay, so you have to understand rise of objects, functional specs, tables, important T codes. Right? Likewise, there is a big list if we keep writing. Now, these are all not part of this. They are all not part of this. If you see any course content, only this will be there. This is elaborated. You see baseline config, they put company, company code, chart of account, fiscal year, field status, posting period, tolerance, document splitting, lot of things will be mentioned. And that will come to 6-page, 7-page, 10-page course content. Most of the people will give weightage to the more number of papers in the course content. That is the just breakup of this. But check these areas. You will get very few. Most of the contents will not include a lot of these things. When you are doing these things, you have to execute everything with help of a practical business requirement. You have to have a scenario listed on your Excel sheet and then do it. If you take, let's say, validations. If I ask you to talk about validations, or if somebody is asking, tell me a ticket incident that you got, which you worked or you found it to be difficult. Tell a scenario wherein your client wanted something, let's say, access to be given to closed period to selected users. Tell that you achieved, you got this requirement, you did this through validation. You did not take any technical help, you did it from your side with simple validation. They might ask, what is this requirement? When you put these kind of things on your interviewer discussion, you are taking interviewer in your control. When you say that this is the requirement, no other option, your interviewer will have to ask a cross question from the same point. Agree with me? If I tell that this is the ticket that I got, this is the requirement I got, if you are the interviewer, will you say okay, or you will ask further question on this? What exactly is the requirement? What will you do? You will say okay, or you will ask me to explain the requirement clearly? Anyone? Anybody, any interviewer will definitely ask you to explain the requirement clearly. Now, what, anybody understood this requirement? Anybody understood this requirement?
No, sir, only we can explain.
Let's say, what is the current period? April.
Yes.
Assuming that we are still on March, because on April 1st, we will still be posting in March month. Okay. Now, or let's say we are currently on April only. Now, previous period is what? Closed period.
March.
March. Clear with this, everyone? Now, you have to have
Yes, sir.
one point in your mind. Whenever you're practicing, strictly open one period only. Do not open 1 to 12 periods. Many people will do this mistake. While practicing, you will keep full year open. That is a big mistake that you're doing in your practice. That will never happen in any project. No company will keep 12 periods opened. Only one period is kept opened. The latest or the maximum is 2 periods only for certain duration. March and April are opened until you finalize March financials. Your March financials may be finalized on 5th of April or 6th of April. Correct? Until then, your March and April both are open. Once your March finalization is completed, March is closed. Now assume March is closed, but one entry to be, or some corrections to be passed in March. The simple option is I can go to posting period, I can keep March month open. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So in this case, it will be 4/20/23 to 4/20/23. But in this case, if I have to do, I have to do from 3/20/23 to 4/20/23. Correct? But if I
Yes, sir.
keep 3 and 4 open, anybody can pass entries in March. Agree?
Yes, sir.
I open March and
Yes.
April together. Anybody can pass the entries in March, which I do not want. I want to decide which user will pass entry in March, but I'll keep the periods like this only, 3 to 4. But for period number 4, system has to accept every user. But when it comes to period number 3, system will have to accept the user which I decide. If I tell Ajay will pass, some XYZ person will pass, only these 2-3 people will be able to pass the entries in closed period. So like this, if you have to explain, first you have to understand the requirement. First you have to be clear with the requirement. So don't Google for SAP support tickets. When you're practicing, you will get a lot of things. You have to list out those. You have to speak only those points, because every issue, every incident that you bring in your interview discussion is subject to cross questioning. Subject to cross questioning, meaning your interviewer will ask you a lot of questions from your same point. Now, if you have like this some 5-6 in your mind, if you have prepared, if you have done this practically on the system, verified, with this 5-6 your interview itself will get closed. In this itself you will spend another 3-4 minutes. You will ask one more, you will tell one more scenario like this. They will tell, okay, why you did like this, okay, because in this process your interviewer will get excited. This is something new that I have also not come across before. How you did it, okay, what was the business need, how you achieved it, without technical, how you did this, how you tested this, is this working fine. You will tell everything because you have tested this, you have practiced this in your practice scenarios. Let them ask any cross question, you will have the answer. At least you will be able to convince them. Okay, let's say I don't want, if you take some more validation like certain users only or doc types only to be allowed for future dates. What is this? Now what is current date? 1st April, correct? Now if I
Yes.
try to pass an entry with 2nd April or anything from tomorrow, any date from tomorrow, it should not allow. I want system to give a message stating future dates are not allowed. But I should have a flexibility to give a relaxation, to give an exception to this. So how you will do it? Normally if you do through configuration, it will stop for everybody. It will not allow for anyone. That is the drawback of your config. So to control your configurations, to give exceptions or relaxations, you will have to go with the validations. Don't talk about the validations which you will normally practice in your things like put reference field, header text field or text field. Don't talk such kind of a validations. If you talk about such validations, the other person clearly understands you are a trained candidate. Certain examples, certain explanations that we give will clearly tell that you are a trained candidate, because certain things are practiced only in training. Now if I explain you this validation, or if I explain you this validation in your interview, or if I discuss with you, you will feel something that, okay, this is something I have not seen before, I have not come across before, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now if I tell simply that, reference field validated, so mostly what we will do, if I put in reference, let's say I want reference to be filled as Ajay. If reference is not Ajay, system will throw an error. If you talk this kind of validations in the interview, it will not look good. It looks very simple, very standard, plain, that you are only aware of the T code. Okay, this kind of validations are created only to understand the basic validation, how it works. Once you are clear with the basic validation, how validations are working in SAP, then bring the different scenarios. And this is one of the sensitive area, validation. Why this is very sensitive area? Because this cannot be directly transportable. In some projects you will configure, you will send through TR. In some projects you will directly maintain validation in production system. But if you are configuring, it will affect all your other validations if you are not careful. So they might ask you that how do you transport validation from one system to another system? Where do you configure validations? Now everybody can, it's easy to tell that you have GGB0, GGB1, OBBH, OB28 used for validations and substitutions. Correct? But I'll ask you a straight question. Where do you configure this validation? If you tell in directly production, why you are doing in production system? These are supposed to be transported, but why are you maintaining in production system? Any particular reason? You should have an answer for it. Because you're telling you are creating directly in production system in your practice or in your project. What do you mean when you say you're directly creating in production system? In your project only? Agree?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you're telling that you're creating in project, which means in your real experience, you must know why you are directly creating in production, why not in development, why not you're moving through development quality to production. You should have an answer. If you are quiet, if you are silent, gone. Understood that you have not worked on it. If you say that you will create it in development, but you will get another question, do you get any TR while saving validation or substitution? No. You will not get any TR while saving validation substitution. Then how do you transport? Another question. For any validation, for any substitution, if you have to give any message, how these messages are created? Who will create these messages? Another question. These kind of a questions you will get from your interviewer. But we will end up practicing only these 4 T codes. Obviously, you will not be able to answer questions from validation substitution. These are the simple topic. But we are practicing only on creation, some basic validation which you are not supposed to talk in any interview. Because by giving certain examples, by telling certain definitions, we will get rejected. Okay, and you have very important thing here is your rise of objects. You must know what are the rise of objects. So this we'll discuss in the next session. And functional specs, your aging report. First of all, we have to know what is aging report. Any idea what is aging report? If you say yourself as a FICO consultant, if you say I do not know aging report, sorry, your voice is not clear.
Customer wise waging reports, vendor advance waging reports, rent aging reports.
These are to be classified based on the aging. So which date you are going to consider for calculating these ages? Are we going to calculate documented dates or are we going to calculate posting dates?
Posting dates.
Baseline.
Posting dates.
Now, not the posting dates. It is always based on the document date.
Document. Okay.
Okay. So you have to know about the different dates. You have to know what is document date, what is posting date, what is value date, what is your baseline date. Because if you are not clear with these areas, it is difficult to understand certain things like aging reports. It is difficult to explain. Because anything a person is asking you in your interview is with respect to a real environment. When I say real environment, what exactly happens with this aging report in a project, in an organization? The same process you are supposed to explain. If you are able to explain, well and good, you will get selected wherever you go. But if not, there is a problem. And these problems are very difficult to find out. Unless you speak to the right people, unless you practice in a right manner, right approach, you will never be able to understand what is going wrong. Because according to you, you have practiced this topic. According to you, you have configured this, you have tested this, you have created 5 company codes, 10 company codes, but in incorrect manner. To put this in very simple manner, you have something called ledgers. If you have only one ledger, this is wrong. If your company code has only one ledger, whatever you have done in your company code is wrong. Such company code you will find only in the training environment. Very, very rare. Let's say 2% or 5% clients will use single ledger. More than 90% of the clients will use two ledgers, one leading, one non-leading. If 90-95% of the clients are using two ledgers, you are practicing with one ledger. Is your practice correct or incorrect? You will not know. You are not practicing the actual scenarios. And there is something called profit center. Active and mandatory. This has to be active and mandatory, which means if profit center is not filled up, no accounting entry is allowed. If your company code is allowing accounting entries to be posted without profit center, your settings are wrong. No company in this world will accept a document, financial document, without profit center. Check with any of your friends who is working on SAP. Tell them to create one document without profit center in their company code, in the test system. It is not accepted in any of the company codes real time. But this is accepted only in your practice systems, which means you're not understanding. You get different errors at profit center level when you're in a real environment, for which you have to understand the concept of document splitting. How documents are split, in what business scenarios the splitting will have to work, how it has to work. Okay, and then you have currencies. You should have local and group. If you have only one currency in your company code, then it is wrong. If you have created a company code, you have practiced whatever you practice with single currency, your practice is wrong. Tomorrow go to any company, join any project, look at these settings first. You will be surprised to see many currencies. No company will operate with single currency. Every company will have minimum two currencies. But for your practice, you will have only one currency. But even though you create two currencies, you may not be able to check the currency conversions, reports in both the currencies and all. There is something called ledger specific entries. Okay, ledger comparisons. How do you compare the data in leading ledger with data in non-leading ledger? Ideally, one account is supposed to have same value in both leading and non-leading ledger. What scenarios will make you to pass an entry in the particular ledger wherein you will get mismatch in both the ledgers, leading and non-leading? And finally, trial balance, P&L balance sheet. If you have not seen trial balance, P&L balance sheet of your company code, your practice is wrong. Your practice is not going to help you to become a FICO consultant. Your practice is going to help you only to know about SAP FICO, but not to become a FICO consultant. You have to play with TB P&L balance sheet if you want to become a if you want to become a consultant. If you are claiming that you are a FICO consultant, but you are not aware of TB P&L balance sheet, you have not seen trial balance, you have not seen P&L, you have not seen balance sheet during your practice is wrong. And here again, seeing is not enough. It has to be like you take any company of your choice, configure the company, take transactions before you post in the SAP. Take one Excel sheet, list out some entries, some basic entries, not related to any integrations. Basic entries you take. And after the entries, you try to calculate profit loss manually. Prepare a trial balance from your side. List out the entries, cash, capital, whatever, purchases, expenses, incomes, liabilities. Take some imaginary figures of your choice. Post all these entries and then calculate trial balance, P&L, balance sheet manually on your Excel sheet. And then for the same company code, pull the reports from SAP. Check the trial balance in SAP is becoming zero, tallying each account balance exactly same as your manual calculation. Profit that you calculated on your Excel sheet, you are able to get from your SAP company code, which you have created. Balance sheet that you have prepared manually is the same as your SAP balance sheet. If this is happening, your practice is correct. You can talk whatever you have done to achieve this to anybody openly, confidently. If you have not seen this, a big question mark for everything that you have done. Every topic you have done, there is a question mark. Right or wrong is a question mark because your accounting is validated at this level. Am I correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Your accounting is validated at this level. If this is wrong, your entire accounting is wrong. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
If my TB is not matching, if my PNL is not correct, if my balance sheet is not tallying, whatever I have done is wrong. But we are testing and then leaving in the middle. Who will have to verify it is right or wrong? You have to verify. If you are working in a project, your client will verify. He will come and catch hold of you stating that what you have done, this is not matching. Numbers are wrong. You'll have to sit and rectify it. But if you are practicing, there will be no user for you. You have to become a user. You have to become a consultant. You have to become a client. You have to play the role of all these three. If you have not practiced, if you have not seen TB P&L balance sheet, big question mark for your practice. Very big question mark. Only you must know why you have created a company code, why you have posted the documents, why you are not able to see TB P&L balance sheet. Only you are one person to answer this question. Put this question to yourself that why did I create this company code? What is my intention behind creating this company code? Why I created this many GL accounts? Why I posted this entry? Why I took this much of amount? And why I did not check my reports? Why I did not verify trial balance? Why I did not verify P&L balance sheet? Verifying P&L balance sheet does not mean executing report, checking that number is coming on the screen. Verifying this means you have to be confident that the number system is displaying is correct. Show the transactions manually that you have given to anybody. Ask anybody to prepare profit loss balance sheet from it. And you run the P&L balance sheet from SAP for the same company code. Whoever prepares P&L balance sheet, you will get same profit. Agree? Because this
Yes,
is
sir.
accounting. Whether I prepare P&L, you prepare P&L, or anybody prepares P&L from any part of the world, everybody will tell this is the profit. You do it on SAP, same thing. Get the same profit from SAP. If you are able to get, your understanding on SAP is correct. If not, question mark. This is where we have to improve ourselves. That you should know what to practice. You should know how to test what you have done is correct or not from your side. Because you are doing FICO. FICO is all about accounting. Accounting is self-validated. Correct? Huh? You don't want any other person
Yes,
to
sir.
come and verify your accounts. This is self-validated. You don't need to do anything. Just run the reports. You must know what reports to be executed. Where are those reports first of all? If you don't find any report, then put a cross question that then how clients are using this. You have to think through in a different way. Then automatically everything will strike in your mind. The way you talk, the way you think, the way you look at the system automatically gets changed. Clear? So the remaining
Yes, sir.
part we'll discuss in the evening. So today evening we'll connect at 7 o'clock. Is 7 p.m. fine for everyone?
Okay, sir.
Right? With the same link, we'll be connecting
Yes,
at
sir.
7 p.m. We'll be talking about the remaining part, the controlling part, and the various other points that you must be aware of before getting into any SAP training. After that, you can decide whether to get into training or whether you want to join somewhere else. It is your choice. But these are the points that you must know before you undertake any training.
Right, sir.
Any questions before we close?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, sir.
All right then. So we'll connect at 7 p.m. with the same link today.
Yeah, sir.